You track every meal that you eat, and you track every snack that you have, and you prick your finger and test your blood after 4 times a day. And then you're writing everything. It's like a homework assignment. It's like you're writing everything down. You're setting your timer for 1 hour after you eat anything and put anything in your mouth, checking your blood sugar and writing it down.
What? Welcome back to another episode of Moms on the Mic with Mariah. Part 2, Nicole's episode, Gestational Diabetes. I didn't know anything about gestational diabetes. To hear a mother going through this, like someone pregnant already dealing with so much, if you've listened to episode 1, that she had to do IVF to get pregnant with her son, and then now she gets slapped with another fucking thing, gestational diabetes, a complication. So for the moms out there who just got diagnosed with gestational diabetes, this is probably an episode that you want to listen to. Or for someone who just wants the information around gestational diabetes. Again, we're not medical professionals. I feel like I always have to say that as a disclaimer because, like, we're not doctors. Like, we're just telling our stories. Like, she's a pregnant chick telling her story about her experience. And so just a reminder to be easy on her, please. Thank you. I hope you guys enjoy this episode on gestational diabetes. So as we transition into gestational diabetes, like, what in the fuck happened? Like, how did you find out that you had gestational diabetes? I mean, was it from the glucose test? Like, how did this even start?
So background is I think it's at 26. It's between 26 and 28 weeks pregnant that your OBGYN will require you to go in and take a glucose test. And you basically drink like this little tiny water bottle full of like really sugary juice. It tastes like orange soda. That's just
yes, that's spot on. That is spot on. That's what I thought.
And I was dreading it because I was overweight when I started my pregnancy, and diabetes runs heavily in my family. And I was just dreading it. I just was not excited about it. And so, so I took it. And again, each doctor has you do a different test. So they had me do the 1 hour test. There's also a 2 hour test and a 3 hour test. So they had me do the 1 hour test. I drink the juice, and then you literally sit at the blood work office for an hour and you're not allowed to do anything. And then they test your blood and they send it off to the lab. I would assume usually your doctor just emails you and says like, all clear, like good to go. And in this case, my doctor called like the next morning. She called.
No.
And I knew because she was calling and not emailing me that that's what it was. And I was on a work call and I was like, I gotta go. It's a hard phone call. I mean, I knew what diabetes was, and I knew that it wasn't good. And I knew that I was upset. I don't know. There were so many reasons I was upset about it. I didn't want to disappoint my parents because they knew that diabetes was in my family, and they had warned me for like the last 30 years, like, everyone has to be healthy. Like, we just want you guys to be healthy. And I didn't want to tell my husband because I didn't want him to be mad that like I was hurting our baby, or I don't know. There was just so many things that went through my head at that point. But obviously I told my family and I told my husband because I needed support. I mean, I didn't want to do this by myself. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know anything about it besides that, it has something to do with like eating.
It's tough.
And so, that's kind of how we found out what it was. But I mean, ever since then, it's been 26 weeks. It's been 10 weeks. So it's been 2.5 months, and I've learned so freaking much about everything: glucose, insulin, eating, carbs, proteins. Like, I feel like I was on a nutrition journey while I was pregnant, which, I mean, being pregnant alone is so freaking hard. And then
it is. It is.
Stressor on top of it is just, I mean, I don't wish this upon anyone, truly. Like, that's how this was worse than I feel like the IVF process. Like, it was just hell. And I'll be so glad when it's
finished.
Yeah.
So like, what happened after your appointment? Like, did you have to go in for additional testing? What did they say to you as far as like, where do you even start with gestational diabetes?
Yeah. So depending on what your test results bring back, they can either say, hey, you were kind of on the borderline, go get the 3 hour appointment. Or, hey, your numbers were just so far off the chart, like you need to go to a dietitian and talk to them about getting your levels in check. And so mine were so far off the chart that I just went straight to the dietitian. You go to this like 2 or 3 hour class to learn about gestational diabetes, what you can and can't eat, how to track your meals, how to track your glucose, how you have to like go to the pharmacy and get like your finger prick kit to test your
Oh
blood
my
sugar.
God.
So honestly, the first 2 weeks were completely overwhelming to learn how to like live. And it's so much pressure in the fact that like you have this human life in you that you're literally willing to do anything to protect them and make sure that they're okay.
Yeah.
It's not just you. It's not like I can just be like, oh, forget
Fuck
it.
it.
Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to do this. This sounds miserable. I'm just going to go eat cookies. Like it was like do or die. I feel like at that point, like I felt like I needed to learn everything because it wasn't me. At this point, I literally wasn't doing it for myself. I was doing it for the baby because you care. Again, right? When you start the process, you're a mom, and you're a mom the second that it starts. It's not like you're a mom when the baby gets here. You're a mom the second it starts.
Yeah.
Um,
I can relate to that for sure.
yeah. So they did this whole class, and basically, like the quick and dirty rundown is you track every meal that you eat, and you track every snack that you have, and you prick your finger and test your blood after 4 times a day. And then you're writing everything. It's like a homework assignment. It's like you're writing everything down. You're setting your timer for 1 hour after you eat anything and put anything in your mouth, checking your blood sugar and writing it down.
What?
Mm-hmm. And then once a week you meet with this dietitian to review everything, and for them to say like, okay, like this number was a little too high, or like you should have tried to eat like half a piece of bread instead of a whole piece of bread, and don't eat fruit in the morning, but you can have fruit at night. And it's just, getting into the logistics of it is just a freaking mess.
I don't think I realized, like, I feel like this would lead to anybody's mental health being affected by this, of like, in a sense of like, this is a lot. It's
Yeah.
extremely stressful.
Mm-hmm. It's like, it's another part-time job, and you're already doing your regular job, right?
Yeah.
It's like a little homework assignment that every night I had to sit down and do all of these. Throughout the day, I was literally on meetings, like pricking my finger
Oh my God.
and like being like, okay, be right back. Or like, I have to go and eat my snack right now because it has to be at this exact time. And the differentiation between a half a piece of bread and a whole piece of bread, like, come on, like it seems crazy when I say it out loud, but
Is this
that's
normal
like,
for like regular diabetes? Like, what did they say? Like, are normal diabetics doing this, or is it just so intense because you have a life inside of you of why you're
so
meeting with this dietitian?
the reason that I think it was so intense is because I didn't want to be on insulin. I just wanted to be able to
Oh,
manage it with my diet because I didn't want to have to take another shot or add this extra thing to my regime.
so you have a choice then between insulin or go to the dietitian.
Kind of. So at some point, no matter what you eat with gestational diabetes, your hormones from your placenta could just be like cranking out so much hormones that no matter what you eat, that you have to be on insulin.
Oh,
So that's what ended up happening to me for my insulin overnight. Like there was, no matter what I ate before I went to bed, my number wasn't correct in the morning.
oh my God, Nicole,
So I
I
have
feel
to
for
do
you.
an insulin shot at night. But that's frustrating too. It's like you're literally trying everything, like every snack under the sun before you go to bed, and none of it works. And you just feel
Like shit,
yeah,
probably.
you're like, I've done everything I can. Like, why isn't this working? And it's not, it's not in your control at that point. It's your placenta controlling your hormones that, yeah, there's just nothing that you can do. And so you just you just have to accept it and be like, all right, to keep my baby safe, even though I don't like it, this is what I have to do.
I'll do fucking anything for my kid. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
just how it is. And I think that's mothers, right? Like we will sacrifice anything to get this kid here, you know? So
Yeah.
I know what that feels like in a different way.
You just want them to be healthy and happy, and
That's it.
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you go to the dietitian. I mean, she's basically telling you, okay, like now is the point where you need to be on insulin at night. So you start
Mhm.
taking insulin and like, what is this like? What does it feel like when insulin is going into your body? Can you feel anything?
No, it's like a
Oh,
tiny little needle. Thank God. It's in this like
oh
pen
God.
that's
Yeah.
already set for you. And yeah, it takes 2 seconds. Thank God. It was
Yeah.
much better than the IVF shots. It was, yeah. Because regular diabetics, like you were saying, like they have to take insulin every time before they eat, right? And so they have to do the shot thing before they put anything in their mouth every single time, which I cannot imagine. I'm only doing it once at night. So yeah, so it's just a quick prick. It's kind of like an EpiPen. That's what I would describe it as.
Yeah.
And then you just move on. It's more of a hassle just to remember it, like, oh, it's 10:30. I'm like already tired. I'm ready to go to bed. And oh, by the way, I have to do this like extra shot thing before I like brush my teeth, But it's become part of our routine, and Eric has been helping me with it, which is super. I mean, it's just nice to feel supported. Like I could do the shot myself. I don't need his help to do it, but it's just nice to, have that extra support and know that like, just because Eric's not pregnant and carrying the baby, that he's helping and cares about the well-being of our son,
Yeah.
and all that good stuff.
So when did you start going to the doctor so much? Because I know you and I have chatted before and you go to the doctor all the time. So like, why are you going to the doctor so much?
Great question. So it's the diabetes, essentially.
Yeah.
I also had COVID in my third trimester, so that was another added
Oh, Jesus
fun
Christ,
thing.
man. Can you catch a break? Honestly, trust me, you're going to have a great labor because
I
like
hope
people who
so.
go through this much hell, like I thought it would be the icing on the cake with the C-section. Your labor will go great. Watch.
So 26 weeks, you find out you have gestational diabetes, and then I would assume this is normal for most gestational diabetes pregnancies, is that at 32 weeks, you start these non-stress tests with your hospital. And so so you add all of these appointments and they just start to add up, right? So once a week, you're meeting with the dietitian. That's an hour appointment. Then you have these 2 non-stress tests, Monday and Thursday, and you sit in the hospital for an hour and they just monitor your blood pressure and the baby's kick counts. And then you also have your regular OB/GYN appointments. And then the last thing that they added on is they do weight checks on the baby. So a common problem with gestational diabetes is that because your body isn't managing your sugars correctly, that it gives extra sugar to the baby. And so the baby gains extra fat. And so if your numbers are in check, it's not really an issue as far as the baby gaining too much weight. But if they are, out of check or too high or whatever, then that's where they want you to have to go to these extra ultrasound appointments. And so those were every other week for ultrasound appointment. And of course, none of it is in our town. It's like 20 to 30 minutes away, so you're driving to all of these appointments and then home from all of these appointments. So it just
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It becomes, what did I just say, like 5 or 6 appointments a week, and they're all an hour and they're all 20 to 30 minutes away. I mean, it just got to a point where I was completely mentally trying to manage my like Zoom meetings I had for work and the work that I had to get done between those meetings, and then also these appointments. And it got to a point where my doctor could just see that like I was crumbling mentally and physically. And she's like, you need to go on leave.
Good.
So it's just so many appointments.
Yeah, it's just a lot. I
And
mean, so you'll get induced at some point if they decide the baby's getting too big.
yeah. So it's again pretty common with GD patients is that they at least want you to get to 39 weeks before they induce regular pregnancies. At least that's how it is here.
Yeah, for me too.
So they really closely monitor you between, obviously, until you get to that point about what the baby's weight is. But at some point, right, it becomes safer for the baby to be outside than inside. It's like you're weighing the risks, right?
Yeah.
Like, at what point, if it's at 37 weeks or 38 weeks, that it's healthier for them, if their weight is so much higher than, what it should be, is it healthier for them to just get out and stop having your hormones take over at that point from your placenta? And again, no matter how much you eat or don't eat, or insulin that you take or don't take, it can't regulate it. So
Wow.
they just weigh all the risk factors for what's best for him based on, I think it's all of those things, right? They're looking at the kick counts, they're looking at my blood pressure, they're looking at his weight. They also look at the amniotic fluid that's left inside of me for every single ultrasound that they do once a week. So they're checking everything. And I think it's a combo, right? It's a combo of like all these different things to make sure that he's safe, because with gestational diabetes, these things are all affected, right? Differently than pregnancy.
I mean, this is like my jaw is open. Like imagining going to the doctor that much and your food, like everything is so regulated. There's no way you could have been at some point working and doing all
Mhm.
this. Like, and
Yeah.
props to the moms, right, who have to work through their pregnancies because they can't get on medical
Right.
leave, for pay,
Hmm.
right? Like
Yes.
this is crazy. So when do you think, I mean, in the back of your mind, like when do you think this baby is coming? Like when do you think is going to be the point where the doctor says, okay, we're ready to go?
Based on all of the every appointment that we have, I get an update, daily here. I think he'll be
Yeah.
here next week. I think he'll be here next week.
Okay.
Which mentally I'm thrilled for,
Yeah.
physically also feel thrilled for. I think a little nervous because it's 2 weeks before 39 weeks, but he will be perfectly fine. And
It's gonna
again,
be
they're
fun.
weighing all the risks. He's in his weight is at the 91st percentile, which
Woo.
is large. So yeah, I mean, at this point, again, it's your happiness takes over and the fact that you just want them to be safe and healthy. And that is more important than, whether you get to 39 weeks or not, right? It's
Yeah,
just,
it's
it,
fine.
we have a great team of doctors. I'm being checked freaking every day. Like at this point, they're going to make the best decision based on all of the material that they're gathering.
Does
We're
he
just
have
gonna,
any risks, Nicole? Like when the baby comes out, like is there any risks to him? Anything
yeah.
you're concerned about as he comes out?
Yeah, so this was a conversation I had to have with my husband too about like, hey, what does this mean? So when the baby comes out, and they do this actually too with the normal pregnancy, is they prick the bottom of their foot to check their blood sugars. And again, with normal pregnancy, they prick the bottom of the baby's foot to just check regular things in blood that they would check normally with the baby to make sure everything's operating correctly. But they'll check his blood sugar, and a lot of times what happens is, so for me, when he's inside the womb, he's getting sugars, potentially more sugars than he should have. So his body is like overcompensating, right? So the second that he gets out and is attached from my body and the placenta, he's not getting as much sugar as he normally would be getting.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like his body's still overcompensating and doesn't realize that he's been detached from me. So there is like a little bit of a period where they're like, okay, every hour we're going to test to make sure that his blood sugar isn't dropping or rising too drastically. And there's not, I mean, it's not like they would give him insulin. It's more of like, hey, here's some formula or you need to breastfeed so that he gets his levels where they're supposed to be. So again, it's not like they would do anything crazy. It makes me feel comfortable that like the remedy for this solution is basically just feeding him. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So then what happens to you? Like, is there risk for you?
Yeah. So there's definitely higher risk for type 2 diabetes after you have gestational diabetes. So that's just, I mean, that's always been a concern of mine because it runs in my family, right? So it's
Yeah.
just making sure that my weight gets in check after pregnancy, that there's not a huge high or low right after he comes out. Like that'll probably be one of the first things that they check. To make sure that my levels, if I need to eat something or I need to take insulin. So yeah, I think it's kind of the same thing. Like if I need to eat something, then they'll check it. But it's not something they would normally check for, like a normal pregnancy. They're not be like, oh, you probably should eat something. So yeah, there's a couple more risks. I think that because I've gone through all of this, like
Yeah.
there is nothing that is ever gonna, make me not want to do to not have this happen again. So like if it's a matter of just getting my weight in check more or exercising more or eating differently, like I'm willing to do it at this point because I never ever want to have to go through this again.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to sell diabetes medication, and so I know about like metformin and sulfs and all
Yes.
this stuff and like insulin and like that I think is one of the hardest diseases to manage
It
because
is.
it's eyesight, it's your feet, it's gout,
Mhm.
it's eating, it's pricking your fingers, it's insulin, it's like the effects of that dizziness. I mean, there's so many things.
Yeah.
Retinopathy, like there's a lot of shit attached to diabetes. It's very, very serious. And so,
Just becomes your health and you don't
yeah,
there's it's I think I probably undervalued it before all of this.
I did too. Trust
You
me, I did
want
too.
you want to live a long life and you want to be healthy and you want to be there for your kids and you want to be there for yourself and your spouse. And I mean, this is just a damper. It's not, it's not how I
Yeah.
want to live my life ever.
Well, yeah. I mean, I understand in a lot of regards in that differently, but like I do get that and the sacrifices you make for your children. And, I wish you well for your delivery. I hope everything goes really smooth. Like, I really do feel like, like people like us really do deserve good labors.
I know, like something, a little light at the end of the tunnel, please.
Yeah, or you'll have like a good sleeper. Like, I have a great sleeper. So like I got
Yes,
that. So I was like, yeah,
I will
fuck
take
yeah.
it.
Yeah, because all these bitches who are like, I had like such a good pregnancy, like their kids are demons. So I'm
Yeah.
like, see, I deserved it because I went through hell to have
Right.
this kid.
You
So
don't need to go
yes,
through hell after.
exactly. So, like what well wish would you give to a mother with gestational diabetes?
Ugh, hurts my heart to honestly even think about anybody else having to go through this, like so
Mm,
much. I would say find the Instagram accounts and find a dietitian that is like your new BFF. And then I would say talk to your family or your friends or whoever you feel comfortable talking about, because you need at least one person to just talk to about it, because if you keep all of it inside, it's too much. You will explode. You'll literally
yeah.
will explode. So I don't know who that person is for somebody, but make sure you have someone to talk to. Be BFF with your dietitian. Find those Instagram accounts that like help you feel like a normal person and like not don't get so much of it is out of your control. Everyone thinks it's just weight related, and it's not, right? And so there's only so much that you can beat yourself up for it, and then you have to move on and realize that this is just out of your control. And yeah, I wish everybody luck. And again, I don't wish anybody ever to have this, but people do. I mean, I think it's something crazy like 10 to 15% of pregnancies have GD. So it's not uncommon. It's just something that no one talks about. I have literally told no one, because I just don't want everyone to be like, oh, well, you're overweight and like you deserve this. And like, if you would have just been at a healthy weight, then this wouldn't have happened. Like,
That's
actually,
fucked up.
yeah,
Like
right. It is
for
hard
people to
to
say, like, yeah,
but
like nobody should be making any comments,
right. But I don't even,
or even
that's the
thinking,
thing. You don't even
yeah.
want people to think it. Like, it's just,
People are fucked up. Like, you know what I mean? They don't
mhm,
know. Until you have a kid, you're
mhm,
like, then you get the sympathy and you're humbled with
yeah,
pregnancy, I think, or you're going through this process of trying to get pregnant. Like, you become so much less judgmental because we're just trying to get this kid here.
yeah.
That
All that matters at that point.
Yeah, and I'm sorry if you ever feel like people would be judgmental towards that. Like then they haven't had a child
Right.
because as mothers, we understand. It's hard.
Mhm. Yeah, I have a whole new appreciation, truly,
I
for
do
all of
too.
this.
I
Yeah.
do too. And thank you. Like, I really appreciate it because, you're pregnant, you have a 50 million appointments right now, and I know you're dealing with a lot. And so to think that you have time to come on here and talk about your process with IVF and gestational diabetes, like, it's really sweet and kind. It's honestly, I'm really proud of you for going through this. And I know that you really had obviously no choice, right? Because you wanted to have a child, but like, we don't know what is the unforeseen when it comes to pregnancy and how your body's going to react and the battle you're going to have to face to get this kid here. And so I commend you, and I also wish a really fucking easy labor, no tears, quick
Oh,
labor.
nothing.
It's going to go good. The baby will be okay and you'll be fine, and you'll get through it. So thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Well,
Thanks for another episode
thank
of
you for
Moms in the Mic.
having me.
Yeah.
I hope that this helps. I mean, literally just one person, if anything. If anything, it was therapeutic for me to just get it all out there.
Yeah. It
um,
will help someone. Someone's
yeah,
listening for that. They're looking for a resource of someone who's actually going to tell them like real shit. Like, what does this look like for me?
totally. I wish someone that I was friends with on Instagram or Facebook would have been like, oh, I had, gestational diabetes. Because I would have been like, oh my gosh, me too. Like, that's going to great together. But no one does. No
Yeah.
one posts about it. So it's like, okay, well,
People are
go ahead.
quiet. Yeah.
Yeah.
People are quiet about their battles they're facing during
Yeah.
pregnancy.
Everyone has their own battles. I think that was just another point home, is that like we have social media is such, it's so far off of what's actually happening in people's lives. And everyone has their own battles. So everyone, the kindness, we forget about it sometimes.
Yeah, I know we do, but I think this will help someone. So
Totally.
I really appreciate it. And thanks so much for coming on. Thanks for another episode of Moms on the Mic. It's great. So
You.
thanks. Appreciate
You're
it.
so welcome.
Thanks again for listening to another episode of Moms on the Mic with Mariah. Go ahead and follow us on Spotify, Apple, and any major podcast platforms. On Apple Podcasts, rate and review us. Follow us on IG, YouTube, and TikTok at Moms on the Mic with Mariah. And let me know what issues you guys would like to hear on the podcast and any feedback. And also, if you'd like to come on and tell your story, go ahead and throw me a DM. Thanks again, and we'll see you guys back here again next Monday. Another story from another lovely person. See ya.